Hello and welcome back to another episode on the BM Valeton YouTube channel. We're going to try to aim to make some short videos answering your questions about our services, the things that we offer. We seem to get a little bit of confusion around why we're different to the place down the road, or why we specify that either the car's brought to us, although we are essentially a mobile valeting company, why there's a lot of services that we offer that we will not do as a mobile service. So that's things like fabric roof cleaning, machine polishing, ceramic coating. Another service that we don't offer as a mobile service is any sort of machine polishing. Now, there is an exception to that. So let's say, for example, you've had a little scratch in the car park, and somebody's rubbed against your car, and it's a section, say, this sort of size. We don't mind doing that as long as we know that it's going to be there before we arrive. Our machines are kept in our unit. It's not something that we always carry around in the van because they are actually quite bulky in their carrying bags, and we've only got a little van, as you can see. So let's say we've got a scratch on here. By the time you've prepped this area, washed it, detailed it, clayed it, by the time you polish it across there, chances are there's not that much dust in the air, and if, say, the sun is over there and it's on a hot day, then we will start by washing the car the other way round so that the sun is on the other side, meaning this side is cooler, so that we can control the breakdown and the evaporation of the oils and the polish while we're working on the scratch. In here we've got fluorescent tubes on the ceiling, which are on a different switch to the ones on the walls. Now that gives a very good ambient light. The walls are white so that the light reflects round and it gives us as much light as possible in here. And we've also got various other lights. So we've got this one and this one. So if we're doing an enhancement or correction, then these are the lights that it gets inspected with. So we've got a white light, and we've got a brighter white light, and we've got a colour match sunlight. So that's actually the closest that you can kind of get to matching the colour of the sunlight, and it gets a little bit brighter. So those are what we'll use to go around and hunt out scratches. Now, usually we turn the lights off. Say we're doing polishing on the lower panels, we'll be working in the dark or with reduced lighting in here, so that we can see any smears in the polish. As you can see, there's quite a few smears there that we need to get off that we couldn't see in the general sunlight. This is our van. Not many customers have vans that are sign written with our graphics. Don't know why they would. Another thing to consider when, or another thing that we consider when doing any sort of large machine polishing work, enhancements, corrections, is dust. If you're outside and it's a hot day, there's going to be airborne dust. It comes down to the further out environment. So if you live out in the countryside, you've got a massive, I don't know, let's say you've got a hayfield next to you, and the farmer decides to come out in his tractor and cut the grass that day. That's going to kick up a hell of a lot of dust. even if your neighbour comes out and mows his lawn next to the driveway, it's also going to kick up a lot of dust. If you live near a main road, you're going to have dust kicking up. Now, you may be thinking that that's, a little bit of dust won't hurt, but the cleaner you can work, the more efficient you can work, okay? So, if we were to machine this outside, the dust would stick to the polish, although we do damp the area down outside before we work inside, just to stop anything coming in. The dust would stick to it, get in the pads, and then you're then dragging dust across. So if you're using a polish that the company spent thousands to hundreds of thousands of pounds developing and producing, and then you're working in a dusty environment, it kind of undoes all their good work in the actual product design. If you're applying a ceramic coating, then you want the paint underneath to look good, okay? So, for one, any time that we've ever ceramic coated a car, it gets about 4 or 5 hours wash and prep, okay? So that's cleaning that up inside the arches, cleaning undersides, pretty much everywhere you can possibly get to the best of our ability. So that's already pretty much half a day gone already. And then by the time that you machine polished it, you then come up against the problem with dust. If you're working outside, you then have the problem with lighting as well, because you can't just switch the sun off. I mentioned about making sure the air is very, very still. Now, in here, above my head, hanging from the ceiling, is a little blower. Now, I find that very, very handy. I park the van slightly over from where a car normally would be. But if I'm polishing a roof, where polished dust may settle on the roof while I'm polishing, to avoid me having to wipe off excessive amounts because it's actually sat on the surface, I stick the little blower on, and instead of that dust settling on the roof, it blows off and it falls down the sides of the car. Now, polishing, you're always going to get dust from the polish. The polish dust isn't so bad for the fact that it came from the polish. That is what you're polishing the car with. So it breaks down. You don't really want to go rubbing it to wipe it off. So you've got compressed air to get it out of any little cracks and gaps that it goes in. So this air blower stops any dust from settling on the car while you're working on it as well. Let's pretend, for example, we've just polished and prepped my van. Right, so that's the cloth on the block. Now, let's say for example, we had one random gust of wind, but the air has been completely dead on a warm day. The air's been completely dead and still. We've got all the polishing done, and all of a sudden, there's just a massive gust of wind. That's little bits of sand, little bits of dust, pollen. There might be some trees like 100 metres down the road, and for the height of the trees, let's say they're 50-foot trees, by the time that wind got down, it's blown stuff that you can't even see, unless it's there as a collective. So if there's a tiny little bit on this pad, so let's say one piece of sand, that one piece of sand will go across there, down. Okay, so now we would have a line going all the way along here that we just spent ages taking more out, and then you come up and down, up and down. So you're going to have this massive line across there for even a single bit of sand. So that's why ceramic coatings we do not do outside. We just cannot control the environment enough to be able to guarantee that we can get it done to a satisfactory standard. And also, then again, it comes back down to the lighting as well. When you put the ceramic on, if the ceramic that's been applied is, let's say, a 9H hardness, because that seems to be the thing at the moment, everybody's cracking on about 9H. If you've worked outside and you've missed a bit because you've not turned the lights off and gone round with the torch, once again like this, and you miss a bit, and that's 9H hardness, that would then need polishing off to remove that. So if you've missed a little bit here because you've not turned the lights off and checked it over, chances are you've missed a bit underneath the handle, probably missed a little bit down here in the corner, you might have missed a little bit up here on the top, which is right at eye level. You may not have seen it because the light was too bright or the light wasn't strong enough. Basically, the ceramic coating, once it's cured, doesn't just wipe off. It needs a process to take it off. One of the other services that we offer that we don't offer as a mobile service is the fabric roof clean and treatment. Now, we get asked a lot for just the roof to be cleaned, which to us doesn't make sense, because for the amount of dirt that is actually in a roof, it then gets washed all over the car, it goes into the door shuts, it goes into all the little nooks and crannies, so then that has to be washed out before we're happy to hand the car back. But before the car's handed back, the roof has to be sealed, otherwise the greenery just comes back like really quickly. So we have to wash the roof and we bring it inside. Once again, we stick the little blower on, gives it a nice little warm blast of air over it while we're drying it, whether or not you had it in for a polish. We'll clean the interior as well, because the fabric roof clean and sealant is generally added extra to a valeting package. So that little gadget up there dries the roof, and the roof must be dry before you put the sealant on. And the roof, when it's damp or wet, may look clean, but then by the time it dries out, there may be a few little bits that we just got to spot clean. Some of the lichens or algae that grow on the roof actually go in really quite deep into the roof. So you can clean the top off, but then by the time it's dried, you may have sort of like a little spot probably about that big that you just got to clean off. Now you might have 20 or 30 of those, you might have one, we don't know. So the roof's cleaned, brought inside, dried, inspected, spot cleaned if it needs it. If we've missed a lot because we've not been able to see how it's going to dry when it's wet, then we'll just take it back outside and re-wash it, and bring it back in and essentially start the process again. And then once the roof is fully dried, we then apply the sealant. It then sits inside for 2 hours at a minimum. We generally try and keep them overnight so that they can have a little bit of extra curing time for the sealant. And that, to us, is pretty much the only way that it should be done. Because once again, it comes back to the weather. We can't guarantee that we're going to get a full solid day of nice sunny weather. So if it rains just before we put the sealant on, then we can't put the sealant on. If it rains 10 minutes after we put the sealant on, the sealant will wash out, and then it goes all down the side of the car, and it leaves this horrible, like oily, streaky mess over the car, which then means that we then have to come back out, clean it off the car, and then reseal the roof, where we're then taking the risk of having that whole situation again. So it's better to bring the car into a controlled environment where, fingers crossed, it doesn't rain in here,